So we are seeing potential pricing looking more favourable as a result of some of these geopolitical tensions. Do you think broadly on balance, is that more of an upside, or are you more concerned about the impact on trade volumes?
Yeah, yes, there are various factors since the Palestinian the problem happened, that the Suez Canal we could not use. Therefore, generally the demand and supply balance is relatively tight. In addition to that, recently that we observed that the total cargo volume from Asian markets to both North America and Europe are steadily increasing, and it creates the tight the market situation. Perhaps that this trend will continue for the time being.
How much concern are you really feeling at the moment when it comes to the impact of US tariffs on Chinese goods, potential retaliation, any kind of volatility and impact on global trade following the November US election?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a little bit too early to say, but certainly that this can be the quite big the potential factor for us. But look at the market as of today, that the total volume of the cargo flow from Asian markets to North America is actually increasing, not decreasing. And perhaps one of the reasons is that the relocation of the export terminal from the China to other Asian countries, including India, so that the rapidly increasing, so that the total volume of the Asian U.S. trade is quite steadily recovering in line with the U.S. economic recovery. That is our observation as of today.
So perhaps a little bit of wait and see on that one, but where you are directly being impacted is from the sanctions on Russia due to its war in Ukraine. And we know that you own 3 LNG vessels that you had actually planned to charter to the Arctic LNG 2 project in Russia. Can you give us an update on what you're doing with those vessels?
Yeah, first of all, that the existing LNG projects like Sakhalin or Yamal is still not the target of sanction. So therefore, that we are continuing our service to provide that LNG transportation from Russia to both European and Asian markets. But as you correctly mentioned, that the new project Arctic 2 is at the target of the sanction, and so that we recognize that we cannot provide a service to Arctic 2, and nowadays we are studying how to transfer our business to somebody who can continue the business with Arctic 2. But it seems to me that very complicated the political process, and we are carefully analyzing the detail of the sanction regime. Of course, as one of the shipping company in Japan, that we will follow. We should follow the sanction regime decided by U.S. and the G7 countries.
So who would you be looking to sell to, and also what sort of timeline are you looking at as well?
So the situation is not so simple, because it is very difficult to sell our asset to, for example, the Russian companies. That it is also that create the potential sanction target. Therefore, we have to be very careful how to protect our own interests and without violating the sanction regime.
How much extra money is Mitsui making as a result of the sanctions?
So that it's very difficult to say. But if you look at the positive side and negative side of the sanction regime, that perhaps that in total that we can gain quite a lot additional income from that the sanction regime, because it created that completely new the transportation requirements for the global market. For example, that there are so many goods before sanction, that so many the volume of cargos are coming from Russia to Asian market. But nowadays, instead the alternative route, the very long way from the northern Europe to the Asia, via through the south. The South African route, so created the quite big volume of the additional transportation requirements. So such kind of the things that created the additional the business opportunities for us. But at the same time, that we dramatically reduce our volume of the direct trade with Russian market, especially the Russian Far East. Therefore, if you analyze the pros and cons of the sanction regime, to me it's very difficult to say that, but perhaps that not quite the serious the negative impact financially, at least.
Takeshi, very briefly, because we don't have much time, but we know that the Tokyo Stock Exchange is putting a lot of pressure on Japanese companies to improve their capital efficiency. How are you looking to improve your price-to-book ratio?
Yeah, that's true. But the shipping industry is a bit exceptional one. That we are very the shipping market is a very volatile and quite cyclical industry. So therefore, I really want to rebalance our business portfolio and to achieve the more stable return and stable growth for the company. Therefore, to do so, gradually diversify our business and to materialize the quite stable growth for coming 5 to 10 years time, and it will create the additional value for our shareholders. I strongly believe.